Kia welcome to my podcast, Unmasking Luke. In this episode, I'm going to talk about masking, what it is, why we do it, its effects. For some of you, you may already be familiar with it. You may be someone who has masked or who is currently masking, but it still felt important for me to talk about it. So this features content I wrote about earlier in this journey of self-acceptance. So if you prefer to listen rather than to read, then this is for you. Many of us hide parts of ourselves so that we can fit in with others, so that we appear normal to them, so that they like us, so that they feel more comfortable with us. But when we do this, though, we're rejecting ourselves. I won't try to pretend like I'm an expert of other people's experiences because I'm not. What I can do, however, is share my own journey, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Before I go any further, I think it's important to talk about masking. According to Dr. Hannah Belcher on National Autistic Society UK, it is an unconscious strategy all humans develop whilst growing up in order to connect with those around us. It is a social survival strategy commonly used by autistic people, which manifests in a few different ways, including, and these are what I have personally done, forcing eye contact in conversation, scripting conversations, pushing through intense sensory discomfort, such as loud noises, and disguising stimming behaviors. Like I said, these aren't all the ways that we mask. My question for you is, how do you mask? Feel free to share in the comments. What I like about this quote above is that Dr. Hannah Belcher doesn't exclude other experiences of masking. It includes other parts of ourselves that we hide, such as sexuality and gender. Too often we mask being queer and neurodivergent. Someone who is gay, they pretend to be straight. Anyone who is trans, they try to pass as cisgender, and so on. And masking does have connections to performative behavior within social structures and cultures, as Elizabeth M. Radulski writes more extensively about. If it stirs your interest, I'll include a link to it, but it's called Conceptualizing Autistic Masking, Camouflaging, and Neurotypical Privilege Towards the Minority Group Model of Neurodiversity. As you know, as you may have experienced yourself, it is an uncomfortable experience for us, all because we want to, as I've mentioned, appear normal. Of course, normal is subjective. What's normal to me won't exactly be a reflection of normal to you. But what I actually mean, I guess, is societal norms. According to a 2021 study called Masking is Life, Experiences of Masking in Autistic and Non-Autistic Adults, don't worry, I'll link to it. Stigma avoidance can play a major role in these general social practices, so like identity management. Of course, that's a lot of pressure to have on you. You don't want to be shunned or rejected. You don't want to be viewed as lesser. You want others to like you. It is an interesting article that looks at the similarities and differences in experiences of masking in autistic and allistic people. So I definitely recommend a read of it. And some people might be like, allistic? What is that? Allistic just means non-autistic. And, there'll probably be people who'll be like, but why, Luke? Couldn't you have just said non-autistic to begin with? Well, I don't know. It's just what I went with. And the word autistic, and just so the word autistic doesn't show up in the same sentence twice. So And we mask as a result of being shamed. You stop yourself from stimming because you know people will look at you with a funny look. You, if you're a dude, don't hold your boyfriend's hand because you don't want to get disgusted looks or you're worried that you're going to get harassed by someone. You, as someone who uses they, them pronouns, don't want to correct someone when they refer to you with the wrong ones because you have to continuously inform and educate people, and that does sound exhausting. When you think about it, social survival strategy makes even more sense. Masking can protect us from stigma, at least directly, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't harm us in other ways. Neurodiversity and autism are viewed as disabilities and therefore viewed as less competent and less human as a result. Like I said, it's uncomfortable. However, masking has deeper, more weightier effects in that you experience stress and anxiety, depression, exhaustion, delayed identification of autism, loss of identity, risk of autistic burnout, increased risk of suicidal thoughts. When we're denying who we are to others and to ourselves, this feeling of internal shame builds up, and we think that because we feel like we have to hide who we are, there is something wrong with us. So it isn't a surprise that masking can have these types of effects on us. For me in job interviews, I'd mask. Did I mask well? I don't know. But I tried to, and I'd get to the end of the interview and I'd feel so exhausted. And whenever it came to job interviews, I'd just dread them because, I thought the only way I'd have a chance to succeed is to mask or rather act non autistic. I remember during the time I denied that I was autistic, I was a lot more depressed, a lot more anxious, and a lot more exhausted. And it was such a challenge. And I'm still on this journey, still learning and unlearning things. And it means so much to me to advocate for neurodiverse people so that we can have more acceptance, so that we can live our lives without having to mask or camouflage or act like anything but ourselves. The first time I'd heard the term masking was from the book Unmasking Autism by Dr. Devon Price. I have had my own lived experience with it and I have a better understanding of it now. It is what I, as a queer and neurodivergent person, have done for a lot of my life. And so there are reasons we mask, and unfortunately, it does have its effects. This is partly why I am recording this, why I wrote a post about it. I want to raise awareness on it, and I want to try and educate others so that they understand what many of us experience. And hopefully someday we can all feel more comfortable to unmask.